Hello, Wazobia Code developers. Welcome back to Wazobia Code. The last video introduced you to handling events in React. This video will introduce you to CSS styling in React. CSS styling in React is almost exactly like CSS styling in HTML. CSS styling in React is almost exactly like CSS styling in HTML. So we are going to jump right into our recipe sharing application to start learning how to do CSS styling in React. Okay, so here we are on Replit. We just need to open our recipe sharing application. We are here. I already have the view going on the right hand side of the page. So I am going to delete this so we can have the entire view to do what we want to do. Okay, so how do we get started with CSS styling in React? Like I said, it's almost the exact same way as CSS styling in HTML. You create a CSS file. So let's go ahead and create a CSS file to style our recipe details.jsx component. So we come over here. This is going to be inside the src folder as well. We add a file. We give it the same name, recipe details CSS. And then what we have to do right now is import our CSS styling file. And how you import it is simply import / recipe details.css. And we've imported the styles. Okay, let's open the file. And there we go. So now this file is going to style our recipe details component. Okay, so how do we get started to actually style using the CSS styles? Well, you remember in HTML, in order to apply styles to an element in HTML, we needed to grab that element in our CSS file using either an ID, a tag, or a class name. It's the exact same thing in React. So in React, we can honestly just come here. So we know we have a div tag over here. We can come over the recipe details, div, color, red. And then look, everything inside the div is now red. Let's do it for a button. For a button, go over here, button, color, blue. Now all our buttons have a blue color text. So that's it. It's very easy to style in CSS for React. It's exactly how you do it in HTML. But then, obviously, we need to make our page look a bit finer than that. That doesn't look good. So let's add class names to our components so we can actually style them better and make them look good. So we're going to add class names to our div. Let's call it. We're going to call it recipe details. Okay. And then how do we want to style this? How do we want to style our div? Well, first let's grab it, recipe details. Okay, so I want to give it the Arial sans serif font family. So I'm just going to do this, Arial sans serif. Okay, so that changes the font family. I want to give it a margin of 20 pixels at every direction. Just give it a margin of 20 pixels, push it out a bit. I want to give it a padding of 20 pixels. Padding of 20 pixels. You can style this however you want, but this is how I want mine to look like. I want to give it a border of 1 pixel solid. Give it a solid border, and I want to give it this color. CCC. Okay, there we go. Doesn't that look good? Okay, and I also want to give it a border radius. Border radius of 8 pixels. Okay, we can see a little curve in here. Okay, so that is how I want to style the entire recipe details. Div. Next thing I want to style is the recipe title. So let's find the recipe title. So the recipe title is this H1 over here. So we give it a class name. Class name recipe title. Okay. And then now we go into our CSS and then we style it. Recipe title. Okay. So now we can start putting in the styles we want. I want to give it this color. Hashtag 333. Okay. You can see the color change a bit. I want to give it a different font size. Give it a bigger font size. 24 pixels. Save. Okay. Now we see that that changed as well. Okay. So now the next thing I want to style is the recipe descriptions. So the recipe description is this p tag over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a class name, recipe description. Copy this class name, and then go into the CSS file, and I'm going to paste that. Recipe description. I want to change the color to this. Okay. And then I want to change the font size to this. Okay. And then I also want to change the toggle button. So we go to our toggle buttons. These are our toggle buttons, this button and this button. So we give them a class name as well. Class name, toggle button. We're going to give the second button the exact same class name. So class name, toggle button. Okay. And then now we can go into our CSS file, toggle button, and then we can start styling it. Okay, so I'll just give this a padding of 10 pixels on the side and 20 pixels up and down. Okay, I want to give this a margin of 10 pixels. Okay, I'll just give this a background color of light gray. Light gray. Okay, there's the changes we've made. I want to give it, I don't want it to have a border. So remove the border. Okay. I want to give it a border radius of 4 pixels. Okay. And I don't like the cursor that shows when I hover over it. So I want to change the cursor to a pointer. So when I hover over it, I have a pointer. Okay. So those are all the styles that I want to give the recipe details. Now, the next component I want to style is the recipe steps. So what we're going to do is that we're going to make a new style file, a new CSS file for recipe steps. So we call it recipe steps.css. Okay. And then we go to our recipe steps component, open it. That's this style. Open our recipe steps component over here. And then, just like before, we have to import it. So import the slash recipe steps.css. Okay. And then the first thing I want to style here is the steps list. So the steps list is this list over here. So we give it a class name. Let's call it steps list. Copy this. Then we go to our recipe steps. Oh, I seem to have closed it. So let me open it again. Recipe steps.css. Okay, good. So our recipe steps inside the steps list. So I want to give it a list style of none. So I want to remove the list style. Double recipe steps. Okay, here we go. Remove the list style. The next thing I want to do is that I want to give it a padding of 0. A padding of 0. So yeah, no padding. Bring it over that way. And then I want to give it a margin top. I want to create some space on the top. margin top of 20 pixels. Okay, so those are the styles I want to give the step list. So the next thing I want to style is the each individual li element inside the step list. Well, how do I do that? So it's going to be step list. So I'm saying I want to style every single li inside the step list. So it's going to be step list li. Delete this. Okay, good. So what styles do I want to give this? Well, I want to give it a padding of 10 pixels. I want to give it a margin bottom of 5 pixels. Change this to 5. Okay. I want to give it a background color of hashtag F9, F9, F9. So that's white. I want to give it a border left of 5 pixels. I want that to be solid and I want that to be green. Okay, so that is how I want to style the recipe steps. So the next thing I want to style is the recipe ingredient. So we do the exact same thing where we create a new file, recipe ingredients.css. Copy this. Okay, and then let's delete this, delete this, delete this. Open our new file, recipe ingredients.css. Okay, and then open recipe ingredients. And then remember the first step, import. Import the slash recipe ingredients.css. We imported it. Good. So the next thing we want to do is decide what we want to style. So in recipe ingredients, I want to style the recipe ingredients list. So I come here, this is the list, class name, recipe, let's call it ingredients list. The ingredients list. Okay. Copy that. Go over to my recipe ingredients.css file. Did I import it? Yes, I imported it. So here, okay. So I want to remove the list style. So list style type, set it to none as well. Save that. See the change? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's disappeared. The next thing I want to do is set the padding to 0. Okay, save. It's moved to the other side. So the next thing I want to do is style every single li inside the ingredients list. So every single li tag. So it's going to be dot ingredients list li. Okay. And then what do I want to do? So I want to give it a padding of 5 pixels, 0. So 5 pixels horizontally and then 0 top down. Saved. The changes happened. The next thing I want to do is give it a border bottom of 1 pixel solid and give it this color EEE, which is okay. And then now I want to style the last element. Now I want to give the last element of the last li. I want to give the last li a different style. So how would I do that? So it's going to be this ingredients list li, and then we're grabbing the last child. So last child. Good. Then what I want to give it is the border bottom none. Save. Exactly. So now we have proceeded to styling our recipe application page. Let me make this bigger so you can see exactly how beautiful this page looks right now. Okay, so this is how our page looks right now. like I said, you can choose to style this however you want. You can make this look however you want. This is just how I want to style my own page. So that's all the content we have for today. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you understood the concept explained in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Stay tuned to learn how to code with Wazobia Code.